They were coming to the door and I was having to get the police and everything. I had to get the police about 6 times.
After borrowing money from someone she thought was a friend, Linda found herself the target of a years-long campaign of harassment for payment of an impossible debt. That's not her real name, but she still fears leaving the house because of what she's been through. That's why we've decided to use an actor to tell her story.
I just felt sorry for her because she didn't have a lot of pals, do you know what I mean? So I felt sorry for her and I just got friendly with her like that, and honestly she couldn't do enough. She just couldn't do enough for me.
Linda had been diagnosed with a chronic health condition which left her relying more on those around her.
Like, she'd take me to doctor's appointments and things like that. I mean, you'd never think she'd do anything like this. She was a good friend, but no, you wouldn't think she could do anything like that to me.
Unable to work, Linda found herself needing cash. Her friend offered to help out and lent her a few £1,000s, but her apparent generosity ended there.
I was always going to, well, obviously I was going to pay her a wee bit of interest. It was late in coming through the money, so don't get me wrong, she was like hounding us, hounding us, so you tell a wee bit of white lies because you want her off your back, do you know what I mean? I mean, as soon as the money came in, it went over to her, but she wanted, couldn't believe it, she wanted like another 10 grand.
Over 4 years, the loan shark continued to pursue Linda and her partner using increasingly aggressive tactics.
They were putting stuff on Facebook, my picture, my partner's picture, and all my details, my address, where I stayed, everything, on Facebook, and they said that I owed them money. They were coming to the door and I was having to get the police and everything, and I had to get the police about 6 times. And the police can't do anything about things like this, you know what I mean? Because they were just coming to the door and they weren't doing any damage or whatever.
The ordeal took a huge toll on Linda's mental and already fragile physical health.
I mean, I'm quite a strong woman, but I hold things in, do you know what I mean? I got on with it, but I couldn't just get on with it. I mean, it must have hit me in a way that I had a heart attack, do you know what I mean? And it was definitely stress that caused it, because, I mean, everybody knows me around about this area, and it's just, I've never had anything like that in my life. It was absolutely horrendous. Crying every night. I couldn't, do you know what, I probably, when I had the heart attack, I just didn't want to be here. That's how bad I felt.
With the police unable to help her, Linda eventually contacted Citizens Advice, who referred her to the Scottish Illegal Money Lending Unit.
We operate a 24/7 hotline, so if somebody knows of an illegal lender or they have indeed borrowed from an illegal lender, they can phone that hotline. Now, whilst we would want to know who the illegal lender is so we can investigate them and stop them operating, ultimately what we also want to do is help that individual so we can help refer them on to other agencies where they can get support.
The unit helps victims understand their rights and take back control of their situation.
If you've borrowed from an illegal lender, you haven't done anything wrong. You haven't broken the law. It's them that have broken the law, and they don't have any right to enforce the debt. And by doing so, they could actually be just making things worse for themselves, depending on how they do that.
As you can see, we've now got 30 out of 32 local authorities covered in terms of reported illegal money lenders across Scotland.
In some cases, a team of investigators can build cases against loan sharks and submit their evidence to prosecutors. How does it differ from, for example, me lending £20 to one of my friends?
If you lend £20 to one of your friends, that's fine because you're not doing it in the course of a business. So the thing that makes it illegal lending is if you do it in the course of a business. So lending money to people without having the necessary authorisation under the Financial Conduct Act is an offence. You need to make sure that there's checks that they can afford to repay loans. You need to make sure they've got all the information before they contract for a loan, and that they're protected throughout the period that they owe money.
Fiona says the methods loan sharks use to connect with people have changed in recent years.
With the advent of less cash being used and also with social media, that there's different ways of making those connections and having those communities. So sometimes those communities are online as opposed to physical communities. An illegal lender will very much be known within the community, and very often people will view them as a good person and somebody that they can rely on until they run into problems with repaying the loan.
The team tracks reports of where loan sharks are operating across the country. It's hard to know exactly how widespread the problem is, but in a UK-wide survey, 7% of people reported that they, or someone they live with, had interacted with an illegal moneylender. Financial expert Neil Alexander says many of them will be looking for small amounts of short-term credit, but can't get it through regulated means.
We think there's about 20 million and more people in financially vulnerable circumstances who struggle to access credit. Typically, people in the most vulnerable circumstances are people who rent their home, particularly social renters, people who are young, people with dependent children, often single parents with dependent children, and people obviously on the lowest incomes. And by the lowest incomes, we are talking about people in the bottom 4 income deciles.
Neil believes there has to be greater access to small loans, but says the market is shrinking.
There always has been a demand for short-term credit. About a decade ago, about 4% of the overall consumer credit market was dominated by lenders who lent short-term credit. It's now not 4%, it's under 0.4%. So there's a 90% drop in that type of credit.
Are you concerned that the illegal money lending market will flourish in a situation like this?
I think there's a danger that if we don't get people access to fair and affordable credit in a regulated sense, then of course there's a danger that people will seek money in an unregulated sense, or they will use friends or family who are sometimes not their friend.
But while the problems facing those in financial difficulty are clear-cut, the way to solve them isn't.
I think we've seen lots of changes in the market, lots of protection for individuals. That's a good thing. Regulation is a good thing. But access is also very important to people. Access and protection are both important. If people cannot access credit in a regulated way, then they'll end up trying to access it in another way.
I'm not convinced there's anything wrong with our legal credit system. I think we have good credit unions in this country. I don't think enough people are aware of credit unions and what they can do for them. I think the big thing is more about that financial education piece and making people be comfortable about how they manage money and asking for help at the earliest possible stage rather than leaving it until it's a point of crisis.
For people like Linda, though, any solution will come too late.
I'm still a wee bit scared there. Well, because I know what she's capable of. To do that to a friend, and my reputation's been taken away for a start. It's because of everything she's put up. The impact is I'm housebound, don't go out, don't want to have any friends anymore. Oh, my life's been taken away from me.
And if you've been affected by issues covered in Selena's report, help and support is available from the Scottish Illegal Money Lending Unit. Its confidential helpline is open 24 hours, 7 days a week.